In March of 2024, LEGO released a set based off the Snow White cottage from the Disney classic Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. However, a couple of years ago, there was a fan-made model based off Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs cottage that was uploaded to LEGO Ideas and hit 10,000 not once but twice, and both times they were rejected. Is LEGO stealing fans' ideas from the LEGO Ideas platform? Let's talk about it. There are very few LEGO sets over recent years that have gotten me so excited and so giddy as this one did. There is just something about seeing the Seven Dwarfs and this cottage made out of LEGO that gets me super excited. This is set 43242, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs Cottage. It retails for $220 US, 400 Australian and 190 Great British pounds, and has 2,228 pieces as well as 10 minifigures. First up is Snow White, and she is absolutely adorable. Now this minifigure is actually the same one that was released last year in the updated Disney Castle set, so there's nothing really that different here. However, her face print for that set works perfectly with the Snow White's cottage, as her alternate face is actually her fast asleep. Next up is the prince, who, like Snow White, is repeated from the Disney castle, and he has some nice dual molded legs, a little bit of leg printing, comes with this really nice starchy cape, and just has a very basic LEGO minifigure head as well as hair, which I feel like doesn't necessarily work all too well for him, but it's good enough that it passes. Then we have the Evil Queen, which I'm kind of surprised that she was in this set, but I am very glad she is, as if you didn't get her in the villain's icons, you can get her here and complete off basically your entire LEGO Snow White minifigure collection. She has some very faint dress printing in dark blue, so it's kind of hard to see but is a really neat detail, and the way that her hair is printed onto the torso admittedly has grown on me the more that I've stared at this minifigure. And then we have the Seven Dwarfs. Now overall, I think they are absolutely incredible. However, the fact that they don't have noses is just a little bit creepy. I get why they didn't do it. Printed noses isn't a really common thing in LEGO, but it just looks a little bit off. There's a couple of new pieces throughout all of the dwarves, having new hat molds as well as a couple of new beard pieces, and overall I think every single one of them is fantastic. I really love how they use the dual molded arms for Doc. I think Sneezy and Sleepy's faces look incredible. Grumpy I think has to be my favorite out of all of them. However, my least favorite, unfortunately, is Dopey. There's just something about his face not having that nose that just doesn't quite look right. His second facial expression has a Snow White kiss mark on his forehead, which is really cute. However, I just can't entirely get behind this one. This set to me is absolutely fantastic, and I had such a joy building this. I put on the movie and I sat and I built this set, and it wasn't particularly hard or took a long time, but it was an absolutely joyful experience. Even the roof, whilst being a little bit tiring, wasn't as bad as I initially thought. However, upon completing this build, I was very grateful that I actually redeemed some of my LEGO points in order to get a discount on this set, because I look at this and I don't see 400 Australian dollars worth, and I very quickly realized that there's actually a really good reason as to why that is. When you convert 220 US dollars into Australian dollars, it gives you a total of 335, and that makes it a really tall ask, I think, for this set, as great as I think it is. But before I go in depth about the model, I cannot talk about this set without talking about the minor controversy that comes with it, in the fact that this Snow White cottage is nothing new to LEGO and was submitted to LEGO Ideas twice by the same designer. Originally, when the project was submitted, it had an entirely different look to it, looking a lot more dull and missing a lot of the vibrant colors that the current model actually has, which is why when it first got denied, the designer updated it a little bit, having a really nice bright yellow roof, and uploaded it to Ideas again, where it continued to hit 10,000 supporters a second time. Now, interestingly enough, LEGO actually initially kind of half approved it, and I was super excited for it. However, a couple of months down the track, which was around about the time where Disney was getting a lot of heat for their portrayal of the Seven Dwarfs in their live action movie, this set entirely got pulled. Now, we don't really know why. They said it just wasn't the right time and kind of gave us a bunch of excuses, and I don't know if that was Disney saying that it wasn't the right time or it was LEGO, but it is incredibly disheartening to see this set come out roughly in the same timeline that the Ideas project would have. I really hope that they got a free copy of the set at the bare minimum, because they have missed out on a lot of profits, as if you get a set made on LEGO Ideas, you get 1% of the revenue from that set, so he could potentially be missing out on tens of thousands of dollars. However, this also isn't the first time that LEGO has been accused of stealing fans' ideas off LEGO Ideas. There's actually quite a few cases that come to mind, the main one being the Ghostbusters Firehouse, which ended up as an Ideas set just being the Ghostbusters car, and then later released a couple years later. The other one that comes to my mind is this modular police station, which also also contained vines on the side of the building and conveniently a donut shop. And I find it really interesting to speculate about this whole issue because it does seem a little bit too suspicious that this has happened multiple times, but with Snow White in particular, a lot of people are saying that the design looks exactly the same, from the yellow roof on the top to the entire design, the minifigure selection, and even the fact that the entire back is open and the set can kind of fold. While this one isn't enclosed like the Ideas one, I feel like this essentially would have been what the Ideas set turned into personally. But since it is based off the same source material, naturally they are going to look very, very similar. I do think they look a little too close that it does almost feel exact in some ways, specifically with the roof design. However, with the general form of the set, it does still feel original and unique and almost Lego-fied enough to me personally. But Lego did definitely do some really interesting things differently, with firstly including these two little side builds to the set. This isn't a set that I particularly feel like needed side builds, but I am really grateful that they were included, starting off with the little wishing well from the beginning of Snow White's movie. This design is actually made up of way more pieces than you would originally think. However, due to the doves and the little bucket and a bunch of the different vines, there isn't a lot of space for minifigures to actually attach to the well. You can kind of get everyone to fit, but since Snow White isn't really in her kind of cleaning peasant clothes, I just put the prince here because he's really the only one that fits properly. As for the second build, we surprisingly for a Lego set get a coffin. Technically, Snow White was in an endless sleep and she wasn't dead. Even though I do think it is a little bit of an interesting choice for Lego, who is usually a very typically family-friendly brand. But also then again, we have to remember that this is based off a kids movie. So, you know, I don't think it's that big of a deal. The coffin design is really neat. I think the designer did a really good job of making the bed actually able to have Snow White lie in it with her little dress slope piece. However, these end parts aren't really attached on super securely and can come off quite easily, which in the case of the larger section is quite helpful to get her in. But enough about those side builds, let's talk about the main attraction itself, which is the cottage. This set is so adorable. I absolutely love it. And one of my favorite features about this set is that it can actually kind of hinge into two and offer a little bit more accessibility into the build itself. It's not a ton, it's not like it can completely fold open, but it does make it a lot easier to actually get your minifigures in and out and interact with this set a little bit more. Alongside that, this roof piece can easily be taken off in order to access the dwarves' bedroom, which is where we're gonna start. Right at the top are tiny little builds of all 7 dwarves' beds, complete with this really nice brand new kind of molded round modified little piece here, and then one of them actually has a sticker of each dwarf's name. This set doesn't contain many stickers. In fact, these beds really make up the majority, and I feel like they were very much needed for the dwarves. Interestingly enough though, not all of the dwarves can actually fit in their beds properly. It's just a little bit too short and some of them kind of poke out a little bit. However, it is actually good enough that you can lay Snow White across multiple of them, just like she does in the movie. Each of them are all attached to the floor using a simple jumper plate, so they're really easy to get in and out, and you can really open up this space if you wanted to as well. Down the bottom, the house is split into 2 sections. One is more of their living room slash music room, as well as Snow White's little cooking section where she makes the grumpy pie. There are so many little details in here, from the little dishes tray to this piece of cheese under the cabinet in order to reference the mice from the Whistle While You Work sequence. And overall, I feel like this room did a really good job of pulling itself together. Coming around to the other side, we have the 7 dwarves dining room, complete with a full feast of tables, bowls, cups, and a bunch of little chairs. Just like the beds, each chair attaches to the floor using a simple jumper plate, and all of the dwarves can just stand up on their seats and be placed in and be sat around the table having a lovely meal. Attached to the wall, we have the broomstick that Snow White uses, and then we also have this tiny little fireplace, complete with a little light up brick, as well as the cauldron on the inside. The exterior, however, I think is really where this set shines. I mean, ultimately, that is what I am looking at when I display it on my shelf, and I love the greenery and all of the animals that were included into this build. Firstly, I found it incredibly clever how the light brick was built into the fireplace. I mean, naturally light bricks are kind of made up of that gray, so it made it blend in really easily, and I think not having some sort of push peg or whatever attached to the side really helped it blend in here. The detailing around the front of the cottage is very, very cute, and something that appears quite often is this little printed 1x1 owl tile, which really helps to represent the woodwork that the 7 Dwarves cottage has. At the end of the day, I would have much preferred preferred this set to be released under LEGO Ideas. Ultimately, LEGO does adjust the models and modify things, and I think this is exactly what we have gotten, but I cannot look at this set and not think about the fact that there was Ideas projects that were cancelled and denied, and then LEGO just go and release them themselves. It does leave a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth, and ultimately, I do believe that Disney was the one and the reason behind that. But in saying that, as a massive Disney fan, I am so grateful that this set existed. Funnily enough, this is actually only the second time we have had a LEGO Disney set with minifigures that is based off a Disney animated classic, as the rest of them have been all Pixar movies. So I would love to see more sets like this. It is small enough as well that it can fit on most shelves really, really easily, and it makes me so happy. Even at its high price point, I would recommend this set to everyone. It is so cute. It was such a fun build. Let me know though, do you think LEGO stole this idea from the fan designer? And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, consider subscribing to my channel down below, and until next time, I'll see you later.